Alright, so this is part 2 of getting started in Unreal Engine 5 for beginners. Now, if you joined part 1, we downloaded Unreal Engine in part 1. And now, part 2, at the end of part 1, we opened up a new project. And so, if your project loaded and you opened up a new project, this is what it should look like. And it's a third-person template, so it's basically a map here for us to use. We can use this map, we could build off of it. Actually, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build off of this map. But first, before we do that, let's learn how to move around inside of Unreal. So, to move around, you can, if you have a mouse that scrolls, you can scroll forward and backwards to go zoom in and out. Right click, if you hold that, it allows you to move your camera around. If you left click and move, it allows you to go forwards, backwards, look left, and look right. If you want to move left and move right, you would hold the mouse wheel. Because if you hold the mouse wheel, it allows you to move wherever you choose. So it's a lot of different controls, but once you get used to it, it'll allow you to move around freely. So that's how you move with the mouse. Okay. Now it's a lot of buttons and a lot of things to press, and oh my goodness, what does all this mean? Oh, okay, so let's explain it all during this video, and then the next video we can get started. So for the fun part, let's get that out of the way, because I know everybody wants this. To actually test this level out and just walk around it, you can press the play button. And a shortcut for that is Alt-P. So you press play, and now you can click in the screen, and now you can walk around. You walk around with WASD. You can also use the forward, backwards, left, and right keys if you would like. You can jump with spacebar. And this is all just standard. This is the template that they gave us. So we can do all of this now. You'll see that some of these things are movable. Cool. So to get out of here, you want to press stop, but sometimes your computer will be locked in. In this case, mine's locked in. I can't do anything. I can't press stop. I can't press escape. So what I need to do is press tilde. It's going to bring up the command bar down here, and it'll also bring up the mouse. Once I press tilde, I can press stop. And there's a lot of errors here for mine. But it's okay. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that later. Okay. Cool. So now you know that the play button allows you to move around. There's different screens you can move around in. You could change them up here. But we'll stay in the regular one. This has to do with any kind of level sequencing. So if you ever see a cutscene inside of video games, this is what this has to do with. This will allow you to open up your level blueprint. A level blueprint is basically the rules for this whole level. This right here will allow you to use place actors. It's a place actors panel. Basically, if you want to bring in another cube, like here's a cube, and you can move it around. But if you want to bring in that cube, you can use the place actors panel, and you can grab a cube from the shapes. There's lots of different buttons up here. You can use lights and stuff like that. You can bring lights into your scene. You can bring a cube in. You can do all kinds of things. But next, if you want to close that back, you can close that. You can always get to your actors panel by coming up here, place actors panel. And then you can find everything you want to put into your scene. Okay, cool. Now that we got rid of that, selection mode. Well, right now we're going to stay inside of selection mode, but as we move forward, we'll go through different modes and we'll see what they do. There's a lot of cool modes inside of Unreal. These buttons, we'll learn these a little bit later, but for now, for starters, you don't really need to mess with any of these. It just controls how you're looking at the world. For instance, if you're doing a really dark world, then you'd usually want to build it while it's unlit instead of lit, because it'll help you see better. These buttons, very important. Let's talk about them. So, we got this cube in our scene, and now when I click on it, you see it has this little thing. So this thing allows me to move in all the different directions. If I get confused, I can look down here in the bottom left, and it says the Z is up, the Y is that way, and the X is that way. So it matches this widget right here. So I can move it in the X direction, I can move it in the Y direction, or I can move it in the Z direction. Now, that's cool, but what if I wanted to rotate my thing? Well, instead of moving it, to rotate, all you gotta do is press this one. And now it's a different little widget comes up, and it allows you to do the same thing. The rotate around the X, rotate around the Y, and rotate around the Z. So let's rotate it around the Z. Let's rotate it around the Y. Perfect. Cool. And a little bit around the X. So now we've got a cool looking cube. I'm going to make it cooler. Bow. Alright. And it's clipping through the floor, so let's translate it and move it up. That's what it's called, moving it, translating it. Alright, so we moved it up, and now it's pointing on the floor. Perfect. It's not touching the floor, but it's okay. So we learned how to move it, we learned how to rotate it, and this last one is to scale it. We can make it bigger or smaller in any direction. So again, look at the color bar. So if we want to make it bigger in that direction, which is the Z, we can make it bigger. Or if we would like to make it bigger in the Y, or the X. To undo anything, just press Control Z. Perfect. Now, these are snapping buttons, and they correlate directly with these buttons. If you want to move it, then it's going to move by 10. 10 spaces in Unreal units. If I change that 10 up, let's change it to like 50. It's going to move bigger spaces, you see? Let's do it drastic so you can see it. Let's turn it to like 100. Let me zoom out here. So it's moving even more spaces. Okay. And it's just snapping. If you don't want it to snap to anything, just unclick it. And now you can move it wherever you want to. You can get really precise. Snapping works for translation, rotation, and scale. This button right here is for the camera. Movement speed. If you want to speed up your camera movement, just speed it up here. Cool. Now that we've got all that out the way, this main screen that we're looking at right here is called the viewport, right? This is the editor viewport. And to the right of it is the outliner, as you can see. Inside of the outliner, it's going to show you every single thing that's inside of this scene or inside of your viewport. So let's click on this. And we see that it got highlighted over here. Let's try it again. We'll click on this white one. And it's got highlighted over here. How about the light? Let's click on that. Yeah, perfect. So anything you click on will be highlighted in your outliner. Once it's highlighted, below that, you'll see the details for that item. In the details, you could change all kinds of things of it. It's like the intensity, the color. You could change it to, all kinds of things. There's lots of things. You could set code here and everything. But we'll go over that later. So that's what's in your outliner and your details panel. Lastly, to understand this completely, let's look at the content drawer. In order to pull up your content drawer, just click on the content drawer or press Control L. Control Spacebar, I'm sorry, it's Control Spacebar. I think in the preview it was Control L, but it's Control Spacebar now. Perfect. In the content drawer, you're going to see on the left-hand side all the content that's associated with this project. It's not necessarily everything in the scene. These are going to be things that are with the project even outside of the scene. Here is where you'll be able to access that information. So for instance, in our all, we see there's a content folder. You'll have these same folders most likely. The starter content folder is cool. Let's open it up. There's more folders. Let's click on the props. These are props you can actually click and drag straight into your scene. So let's actually put a chair here. And let's make it like they're chilling at a monument or something like that. So let's rotate the chair 90 degrees. Boom, 90. And then I want to duplicate that chair. In order to duplicate any item, then you hold Alt, and while you're holding Alt, you move it in the direction that you would like to duplicate it in. So I'm going to do mine this way to the right. And see, it just made a duplicate. Now, I can go back and I want to rotate it. Instead of coming back up here to click, you see there's a shortcut that says I can just press the letter E to change it to rotation. So let's try it. E. Oh, perfect. So the shortcut for rotation is E. The shortcut for translation is W. W will allow you to move it. And the shortcut for scaling is R. Okay, perfect. We set up this scene, and that looks pretty darn good. Everything that, that's pretty much what you need to get started. Um, I don't know. We can go over some real technical stuff and start getting started with like the character. There's a real big problem here. Instead of pressing the tilde key to exit, we can fix that. So when you press play, you go over here to our scene. Instead of pressing tilde and then having to press stop, we're going to fix that in the next episode where we could just get out of the game. So hopefully you're ready for some coding next time, because that's what we're about to do. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.